Veterans Day. President Donald Trump honors those who have served their country. He also continues to dispute the results of the election. We're at the White House. The future of Obamacare. A closer look at arguments before the Supreme Court on the Affordable Care Act. Pope Francis responds, what the Holy Father is saying in the wake of the McCarrick report. And faith and politics. One member of Congress tells us about his work and his love for God. On EWTN News Nightly for Veterans Day, November 11th, 2020.
With the margin being so close, it will require a full by-hand recount in each county. This will help build confidence. It will be an audit, a recount, and a recanvass all at once.
Georgia election officials announced a full hand recount from the presidential election. The process is expected to begin at the end of the week and could take until November 20th to finish. Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Tracy Sable. Georgia's Secretary of State says after results from the hand recount are certified, the losing campaign can then request another recount, which will be performed by a machine. Here's a look right now at the current vote count in Georgia. According to the Associated Press, President-elect Joe Biden leads President Donald Trump by about 14,000 votes. That's out of nearly 5 million votes counted in the state. Meantime, President Donald Trump honors all those who have served on this Veterans Day, and he is not backing down in his fight to win the election, announcing more legal action today and more tweets as well from the president aiming to show how the polls got it wrong and hurt his campaign. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
Tracy, as you pointed out, Georgia was an extremely close race. In fact, the Georgia Secretary of State saying, let the counting begin again, and the Trump campaign announcing a new post-election legal action.
President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump honor the nation's veterans at Arlington National Cemetery. In Pennsylvania, President-elect Joe Biden and his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, visit the Philadelphia Korean War Memorial. Meanwhile, the election. On Twitter, President Donald Trump slams, quote, fake pollsters for a possibly illegal suppression poll just before the election showing me down 17 points in Wisconsin, when, in fact, on Election Day, the race was even, and we are now preparing to win the state. And in Georgia, a recount.
It will be a heavy lift, but we will work with the counties to get this done in time for our state certification.
The Trump campaign is happy about that and also said today this election is not over and Joe Biden has been certified as the winner in exactly 0 states. In Philadelphia, one official says of last week's election,
we just had the most transparent and secure election in the history of Philadelphia.
He can't believe what he's seeing on social media.
One thing I can't comprehend is how hungry people are to consume lies and to consume information that is not true.
President Donald Trump attacking the commissioner on Twitter, calling Al Schmidt a so-called Republican rhino who refuses to look at a mountain of corruption and dishonesty. We win.
By the way, Twitter censored the tweet you just saw there by President Donald Trump, calling it disputed. Meanwhile, the Trump campaign has filed suit in Michigan, saying witnesses there saw election officials counting ineligible ballots and counting batches of the same ballots multiple times. Tracy?
White House correspondent Owen Jensen reporting for us tonight. Thank you so much, Owen. And President Donald Trump closes the gap with rival Joe Biden with a win in the state of Alaska. The president is now projected to win Alaska's 3 electoral votes as the final ballot from last week's election are counted. Also, Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan has won re-election. He beat independent Al Gross, giving Republicans another Senate seat. The future of the Affordable Care Act is on the line. The Supreme Court is now considering its 3rd case involving Obamacare. And while conservatives hold the court majority, there are indications they may not repeal the 10-year-old law. Correspondent Mark Irons reports. Mark?
Tracy, Supreme Court justices have now heard oral arguments on both sides of this case. Republican attorneys general and the Trump administration believe that the entire law should be struck down. But Chief Justice John Roberts seems to imply that since Congress has not repealed this law, it's really not the court's job to do so.
I think it's hard for you to argue that Congress intended the entire act to fall if the mandate were struck down when the same Congress that lowered the penalty to zero did not even try to repeal the rest of the act.
In oral arguments, Justice Brett Kavanaugh, appointed by President Trump, also seemed likely to vote in favor of keeping Obamacare intact, minus the mandate requiring Americans to obtain health insurance. Congress zeroed out the financial penalty tied to that mandate in 2017. Lawyers supporting the Affordable Care Act say the law can still survive without the mandate. And President-elect Joe Biden has vowed to enact reforms to expand coverage of this law, regardless of the Supreme Court case outcome. A decision is expected by late spring. Tracy.
Okay, thanks so much, Mark. Correspondent Mark Irons reporting for us tonight. Pope Francis pledges to rid the Catholic Church of sexual abuse, and he prays for the victims of former U.S. Cardinal Theodore McCarrick.
Doloroso caso del ex cardinale Theodore McCarrick.
At his weekly talk at the Vatican, the Holy Father says the Church is making a commitment to eliminate the evil of sexual misconduct. His remarks come one day after the release of the report into McCarrick. The 90-year-old was laicized last year following a Holy See investigation that confirmed decades of allegations of sexual abuse against minors and adults. Here in the U.S., the faithful are continuing to process the findings of the 2-year Vatican investigation into the Church's institutional knowledge and decision-making process regarding the former U.S. Cardinal. Joining me now on Skype is Al Kresta, President and CEO of Ave Maria Radio. Al is also the host of Kresta in the Afternoon, heard on EWTN Global Catholic Radio. Al, welcome back. Great to have you on.
Well, thanks, Tracy, for the invitation.
Al, the McCarrick report is something that the lay faithful have been calling for quite some time, as you know. What insight does this report give us into McCarrick himself?
There are a few things that come out immediately. One of them is what a mess our clergy, our corporate clergy situation is. Time and again, you find in the report that there are hints, there are whiffs of misconduct, anonymous phone calls or anonymous letters. But the existing structure of bishops, archbishops, priests, deacons, seem unable to conduct the kind of investigation necessary. There were complaints about, not many, but there were complaints about McCarrick back in the mid-1990s. I think the first complaint is an anonymous phone call around 1994 from a mother. And so time and again, you have these things erupting. They're small, but they're erupting. And there's an inability on the part of our bishops and priests to conduct the kind of investigation that could have gotten to the bottom of this. I think this is a problem of what some people would call clericalism, and that is a certain sense of, well, there's a natural fraternity among priests, obviously, but which you want, but there isn't sufficient fraternal correction or holding one another accountable. There's a much high level of tolerance among one's peers, rather than actually asking people to answer for these kind of accusations. Why do I have this? Why did this land on my desk? So I think we need something. This is going to require more than just lay outrage. It's going to require real intelligence on the part of our clergy to figure out a better way to hold one another accountable.
Al, what does it show about the institutional system of the Church and the ways in which McCarrick was able to use it to his advantage?
Well, again, what you see is ambition. You see ecclesial ambition. This is a fellow who was a pathological liar, who knew how to work the system, knew how to game the system. And when Cardinal John O'Connor warned Bishop Dievich that McCarrick was not a good choice to become Cardinal Archbishop of Washington, D.C., And John Paul II originally decided to pass over him. He had passed over him twice before for Chicago and New York. But during this third time, McCarrick caught wind of it. Somehow he caught wind that he was being overlooked. And he wrote a personal letter to Divish, which was then shared with John Paul II. And in this letter, this ambitious, narcissistic, pathological liar managed to persuade John Paul II that he was in fact pure, innocent, never had engaged in any sexual misconduct with anybody at any time in his life. And so you have, what is that about? That's about ambition. It's about somebody lusting for higher office, the very things that St. Paul warns against when it comes to bishops and deacons. So I think we have to recognize that in our Catholic Church, people really do think it's like a corporate structure that you can climb. And I think we have to be aware that we have people who are trying to climb the ladder. I know for me, this is kind of a new realization.
Well, Al, so much more we can talk about. I wish we had more time, but we appreciate you coming on. Al Kresta, President and CEO of Ave Maria Radio. Thanks again, Al.
Thanks, Tracy.
A prominent cardinal in Poland who was sanctioned by the Vatican for sexual abuse allegations last week is now unconscious in a Polish hospital. Retired Archbishop Henryk Gonoblich was accused of sexually abusing a seminarian and, in another case, of covering up abuse. Far-right protesters in Poland have clashed with police during an annual Independence Day march. It went ahead despite a ban on public gatherings because of coronavirus restrictions. Many showed up in cars, but others marched on foot and threw firecrackers at police. Communist authorities in China expelled 4 pro-democracy lawmakers in Hong Kong. In response, the entire bloc of pro-democracy legislators are quitting en masse.
Hong Kong has oil.
Together we stand.
Together we stand.
The remaining 15 members of the Hong Kong legislature say they're submitting their resignations today. The Communist Party in Beijing passed a resolution this week saying any lawmaker who supports independence should be disqualified from holding office.
Que ejerceré fielmente el cargo de presidente de la República.
Peru swears in a new president. Businessman Manuel Merino took the oath of office after the last president was removed by Congress. Merino is accused of trying to get the military to support the effort to remove the previous president. A protest continued again today, with many saying there was a parliamentary coup. An explosion at a cemetery in Saudi Arabia wounded at least 3 people at a ceremony commemorating the end of World War I. American and European officials were attending the ceremony. A Greek policeman and a Saudi officer are among those injured. It happened at a cemetery of non-Muslims in the city of Jeddah. The explosion follows a stabbing at the French consulate there and the killing of 3 people at a Catholic church in the southern French city of Nice. Coming up, analysis of the latest developments in the race for the White House. And a veteran talks about his faith from the military to the halls of Congress. As we reported earlier, the state of Georgia has announced it will do a full hand recount of Election Day ballots, as officials there say it is still too close to call which presidential candidate won the state. But the presidential race isn't the only one garnering attention in the Peach State. The runoff elections in Georgia between GOP Senator Kelly Loeffler and Democratic challenger Raphael Warnock and Republican Senator David Perdue and his Democratic challenger Jon Ossoff are swiftly becoming a showdown over the control of the chamber. Joining me now on Skype to offer his analysis on this and more is Ramesh Ponnuru, visiting fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Ramesh, welcome back. Always great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Ramesh, we have a lot to get to, but I want to start off with a race, the runoff races, that is, in Georgia. A lot is at stake there. Let's talk about that.
Yes, these are races for 2 Senate seats that will determine which party has a majority in the Senate. If the Democrats win both of them, then with Vice President-elect, probably Kamala Harris, they will have a 51-50 majority in the Senate. But if they don't, then the Republicans have a majority of either 51 or 52, depending on whether they win one or both of those elections. So it's a pretty high stakes set of elections.
Ramesh, what do you think the chances are that the Democrats will win, considering Georgia has historically been a red state?
Well, Georgia has becoming less of a red state in recent years. It was very competitive in the presidential election. I do think that it is unlikely that the Democrats are going to get the sweep that they need, particularly as it becomes clearer that Joe Biden is the next president. I think that the instincts of a lot of voters to want a check and not to want the Democrats to have complete control of the federal government will come into play, and that will aid the Republicans.
I want to talk about the Georgia recount in the presidential race now. Currently, Joe Biden is leading by a slim margin. What do you think the likelihood is that a recount could result in a flip that's in favor of President Trump?
I think it's pretty unlikely. And of course, just flipping Georgia wouldn't mean changing the outcome of the presidential race, which at the moment looks like it's going to be 306 to 232 electoral votes. So other states would also have to flip. So it is an extraordinarily steep climb for President Trump right now.
I also want to talk about and get your take on the Trump campaign's lawsuits regarding the presidential election. What are your thoughts on it as a political strategy at this point and the message that it sends to his supporters?
Well, he has managed to persuade a lot of Republicans that he did, as he puts it, win big, win by a lot, and that the election is being stolen. That presumably will make him look less like somebody who has lost, which is obviously a perception that he doesn't want, and aid him in any future political endeavors, maybe aid him in some future business endeavors. I don't see that it's going to do much to change the actual outcome of the election, again, because there are just the margins and the number of states is too large for it to work.
Ramesh, thanks so much for coming on. We always appreciate your analysis. Ramesh Ponnuru, visiting fellow at American Enterprise Institute. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
U.S. Congressman Mike Gallagher was just reelected to represent Wisconsin's 8th District. A combat veteran, he served 7 years with the U.S. Marines. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales sat down with a lifelong Catholic in this Veterans Day Faith and Politics report.
My call sign was Gideon.
Congressman Mike Gallagher signed up to join the Marines the day of his college graduation, serving 2 tours in Iraq from 2006 to 2013, working in intelligence. Gallagher found special meaning in the Bible story of Gideon, a judge of Israel and an intelligence officer called by God.
Gideon basically uses intelligence and psychological operations, right? He goes into the Midianites' camp, and the Midianites freak out, and they basically kill each other, and they win this great battle. And so for a Marine, that story is particularly compelling because the Marine Corps warfighting philosophy is all about how you can overcome numerical inferiority if you have better strategy and a quicker tempo of operations.
He tells me his career in politics was an unexpected detour.
They changed my orders at the last second. They were going to send me to do a staff job that I thought would be boring because I wanted to deploy again. But had that not been the case, I'd still be in the Marine Corps.
Regardless of his career path, he says his life stays centered on his Catholic faith.
You have to be committed to a cause greater than yourself. And for me as a Catholic, that happens to be, the cause of serving Jesus and living out my faith. My family motto, going all the way back to the ancient days in County Donegal in Ireland, is Mea Gloria Fides, which means faith is my glory, and that's how we end every prayer, whether it's before a meal or in the morning.
He follows the example of his grandmother, who went to daily mass.
I try and start my day on my knees in prayer and reading a little bit of scripture.
As he prepares for his 3rd term in office, he tells me,
even as busy as the life of a congressman can be, you just have to prioritize prayer and carve out time to be with God.
Truly a motto to build on. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
Up next, Why a statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary, blessed by Pope Francis, is going on tour in Italy. A statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary about to be taken on a tour of Italy makes a stop at the Vatican. Pope Francis blessed the statue after his weekly talk with pilgrims at the Vatican. It commemorates Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal. Nearly 200 years ago, the Virgin Mary appeared to the French saint Catherine Labourier. The statue will be taken across Italy by the Vincenzo Order. Joining us now is Father Tomaž Mavrič, Superior General of the Congregation of the Mission and President of the Vincenzo Family Executive Committee. Father, welcome back. So good to have you on. So tell us, why are you taking this statue across Italy?
This initiative started with the anniversary, the 190th anniversary of the apparition of Mary in Paris, married to a young daughter of charity, Saint Catherine Labourier, and we are celebrating this year the 190th anniversary, and we thought it's an appropriate time to organize a pilgrimage, because also the situation, the circumstances at that time in 1830, when the apparition happened, and today are in many ways similar.
Father, what can you tell us about Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal, and does it hold any special meaning today?
Yes, definitely. The Miraculous Medal, as it is called, miraculous, and the name did not happen by a person who decided to start calling it like that, or even Mary asking Catherine Labourier to call it that way, but the people, in fact, the people that after hearing the message of Mary, of Jesus through Mary to Catherine, to come to the altar, to ask for graces with faith, with hope, with trust, and ask for graces that you need. And if you're going to be open and you will have faith, you will receive them. And that's how miracles started to happen, by people carrying the medal. And the message is today so relevant again, because we are in some way experiencing similar situations that were at that time in France, around the world, people with a plague, like we are experiencing today, COVID, the people in distress, wars happening in different parts of the world. And here you are, Mary, saying, I would like to help you. I am here to help you. Ask me for graces, and you will receive them. Ask my son for graces, and you will receive them. And this is the message that we would like to now encourage again, or refresh through this pilgrimage across Italy.
Wonderful. Well, Father, thank you so much for your time today and for coming on. Father Tomaž Mavrič, Superior General of the Congregation of the Mission and President of the Vincenzo Family Executive Committee. Thank you again, Father.
Thank you very much.
And we thank you for watching tonight. For the entire EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Tracy Sable. Good night and God bless.